playlist linked in case you want to listen to the full thing. The microwave is broken. Don't worry, I love the radio microwaves. Yes. Hello, hello. How are you? Yes? In the last episode of Dracula Ballsy, what had happened? We had 2 characters die. One main character died. Yeah. Lovely stuff. Yes. This time we're gonna be doing it with some nice crackles from the fireplace. Let me just reach over. Done that a little bit. Dracula wanted to buy some property. He wanted to be on the property ladder, that's right. Are they a main character if they died? Questionable. Not a main character anymore. So, last time, spoiler alert, the lady died. She had all the blood drained from her, and unfortunately she passed away. Yes, this story is about vampires. And they're going to see if she's going to come back from the dead, I do believe. Yeah. If it was set in the modern day, he'd barely be able to afford a flat. Yeah, it's times are tough right now. So, they're gonna see if she comes back. But in the meanwhile, there is a story in the newspaper about a bloofer lady who is apparently has been abducting kids. That's not good. So, I wonder if that story is connected. And also, I do believe Dracula was spotted around town, and he was giving one of the main characters a little bit of PTSD. It's not me. This story isn't about me. Yeah, Miss Lucy passed away. That's right. So, stuff is happening. The plot is plotting. Everything is moving along. So yeah, right. Today we are on to chapter 14. So if you'd like to join me, you can turn off your brain, listen to me talk, listen to me say words. It doesn't even need to fully be absorbed into the brain. The gut. Gut, exactly. Let's go, let's go. Grab a drink, sit down, pa. My brain was never on in the first place. That's lovely. That is honestly the ideal form. Okay. Well then, we'll have some breaks in between the chapter, but I'm gonna get right into it. Okay. Oh, thank you, Graven. Perfect timing. Comfy love. Thank you very much. Okay, we're on chapter 14, Mina Harker's journal. So, Mina Harker is Lucy's best friend, but unfortunately Lucy is dead, and she is also newlywed to some guy, and the guy is currently having some PTSD from seeing the Dracula, so that is the context. Okay. Ready to eat? Chapter 14, Mina Harker's journal, 23rd of September. Jonathan is better after a bad night. I'm so glad that he has plenty of work to do, for that keeps his mind off the terrible things. And oh, I am rejoiced that he is now not weighed down with the responsibility of his new position. I knew he would be true to himself. And now how proud I am to see my Jonathan rising to the height of his advancement, keeping pace in all ways with the duties that came upon him. He will be all away all day till late, for he said he could not lunch at home. My housework is done, so I shall take his foreign journal, lock myself up in my room and read it. 24th of September. I hadn't the heart to write last night. The terrible record of Jonathan's upset me so. Poor dear, how he must have suffered. whether it be true or only imagination. I wonder if there's any truth in it at all. Did he get his brain fever, then write all these terrible things? Or did he add some cause for it all? I suppose I shall never know, for I dare not open the subject to him. And yet, that man we saw yesterday, he seemed quite certain of him. Poor fella. I supposed it was a funeral that upset him and sent his mind back on some train of thought. He believes it all himself, I believe. I remember how on our wedding day he said, unless some solemn duty came upon me to go back to the bitter hours, asleep or awake, mad or sane. There seems to be, through it all, some thread of continuity. The fearful Count was coming to London, and if it should be, he came to London with its teeming millions. There may be a solemn duty, and if it come, we must not shrink from it. I shall be prepared. I shall get my typewriter this very hour and begin transcribing. Then we shall be ready for other eyes if required, and if it be wanted, then perhaps, if I am ready, poor Jonathan may not be upset, for I can speak for him and never let him be troubled or worried with it all. If ever Jonathan quite gets over the nervousness, he may want to tell me all of it, and I can ask him questions and find out things and see how I may comfort him. Letter Van Helsing to Mrs. Harker, 24th of September, Confidence. Dear Madame, I may pray to you to pardon my writing, in that I am so far friend as I am sent you sad news of Miss Lucy's Westenra's death. By the kindness of Lord Godalming, I am empowered to read her letters and papers, for I am deeply concerned about certain matters vitally important. In them, I find some letters from you, which show how great friends you are and how you love her. Oh, Madam Mina, by that love I implore you, help me. It is for others' good that I may ask to redress great wrong, and to lift much terrible troubles that may be more great than you know. May it be that I see you. You can trust me. I am a friend of Dr. John Seward, and of Lord Godalming. That was Arthur of Miss Lucy. I must keep it private for the present from all. I should come to Exeter to see you at once if you tell me. I am privileged to come, and where and when. I implore your pardon, madam. I have read your letters to poor Lucy, and know how good you are, and how your husband suffer. So, I pray, if it may be, enlighten him, not least it may harm. Again your pardon, and forgive me, Van Helsing. Telegram, Mrs. Harker to Van Helsing. 25th of September. Come today by 10:15 train if you can catch it. Can see you any time you call. Wilhelmina Harker. Mina Harker's Journal, 25th of September. I cannot help feeling terribly excited as the time draws near for the visit of Dr. Van Helsing, for somehow I expect that it will throw some light upon Jonathan's sad experience, and as he attended poor dear Lucy in her past illness, he can tell me about her. That is the reason of his coming. It is concerning Lucy and her sleepwalking, and not about Jonathan. Then I shall never know the real truth. How silly I am. That awful journal gets hold of my imagination, and tinges everything with something of its own colour. Of course it is about Lucy. That habit came back to the poor dear, and in that awful night on the cliff must have made her ill. I had almost forgotten in my own affairs how ill she was afterwards. She must have told him of her sleepwalking adventure on that cliff, and I knew all about it, and now he wants me to tell him what I know, so that he may understand. I hope I did right in saying anything to Mrs. Westenra. I should never forgive myself if any act of mine, were it even a negative one, brought harm on poor Lucy. I hope too Dr. Van Helsing will not blame me, I have had such trouble and anxiety of late that I feel I cannot bear more just at present. I suppose a cry does us all good sometimes, clears the air as other rain does. Perhaps it was reading the journal yesterday that upset me, and Jonathan went away this morning to stay away from me the whole day and night. The first time we have parted since our marriage. I do hope the dear fellow will take care of himself, and that nothing will occur to upset him. It is 2 o'clock, and the doctor will be here soon now. I shall say nothing of Jonathan Harker's journal, unless he asks me. I am so glad I have typewritten out my own journal, so that, in case he asks about Lucy, I can hand it to him. It will save much questioning. Later, he has come and gone. Oh, what a strange meeting, and how it all makes my head whirl around. I feel like one in a dream. Can it be possible, or even part of it, if I had not read Jonathan's journal first? I should never have accepted it, even the possibility. Poor dear Jonathan. How he must have suffered. Please the good God, all this may not upset him again. I shall try to save him from it. But it may be even a consolation and a help to him, terrible though it be, and awful in its consequences, to know that for certain that his eyes and ears and brain did not deceive him, and that all is true. It may be that the doubt which haunts him, but when the doubt is removed, no matter which waking or dreaming may prove the truth, he will be more satisfied and better to hear the shock. Dr. Van Helsing must be a good man as well as clever, if he is Arthur's friend and Dr. Seward's, and they brought him all the way from Holland to look after Lucy. I feel, from having seen him, he is good and kind, and of a noble creature, of a noble nature. When he comes tomorrow, I shall ask him about Jonathan, and then, please God, all this sorrow and anxiety may lead to a good end. I used to think I would like to practice interviewing. Jonathan's friend on the Exodus News told him that the memory is everything in such work, that you must be able to put down exactly almost every word spoken, if you had to refine it or some of it afterwards. Here was a rare interview. I shall try to record verbatim. It was past 2 o'clock when the knock came. I took my courage and domain and waited. In a few minutes, Mary opened the door and announced Dr. Van Helsing. I rose and bowed, and he came towards me, a man of medium height, strongly built with his shoulders set back over a broad, deep chest and a neck well balanced on the trunk as his head is on the neck. The poise of the head strikes me at once as indicative of thought and power. The head is noble, well-sized, broad, large behind the ears. The face, clean-shaven, shows a hard square chin, a large, resolute, mobile mouth, a good-sized nose, rather straight, but with quick, sensitive nostrils that seem to broaden as the big bushy brows come down and my mouth tightens. The forehead is broad and fine, rising at first almost straight, then sloping back above 2 bumps or ridges wide apart. Such a forehead that the reddish hair cannot possibly tumble over it, but it falls naturally back to the sides. Big dark blue eyes are set widely apart, and are quickly tender or stern with the man's moods. He said to me, "Mrs. Harker, is it not?" I bowed assent. "That was Miss Mina Murray." Again I assented. "It is Mina Murray that I came to see, the friend of the poor dear child Lucy Westenra, Madam Mina. It is on account of the dead that I come." "Sir," I said, "you could have no better claim on me than that you were a friend and a helper of Lucy Westenra," and I held out my hand. He took it and said tenderly, "Oh, Madam Mina, I know the friend of that poor little girl must be good, but I had yet to learn." He finished his speech with a courtly bow. I asked him what it was that he wanted to see me about, so he at once began. I have read your letters to Mrs. Lucy. Forgive me, but I had to begin to inquire somewhere, and there was no one to ask. I know that you were with her at Whitby, and sometimes she kept a diary. You need not look surprised, Madam Mina. It was begun after you had left, and it was an imitation of you in the diary. She traces by inference certain things to a sleepwalking, in which she puts down that you saved her. In great perplexity, then, I come to you and asked you out of so much kindness to tell me all of it that you can remember. I can tell you, I think, Dr. Van Helsing, all about it. Ah, then you have a good memory for facts. For details? It is not always so with young ladies. No, Doctor, but I wrote it down all the time. I can show you it if you like. Oh, Madam Mina, I will be grateful. You'll do me such a favour. I could not resist the temptation of mystifying him a bit. I suppose it is some taste of the original apple that remains still in our mouth. So I handed him the shorthand library. He took it with a grateful bow and said, May I read it? If you wish, I answered as demurely as I could. He opened it, and for an instant his face fell. Then he stood up and bowed. Oh, you so clever woman, he said. I knew long that Mr. Jonathan was a man of such thankfulness. But see, his wife have all the good things. And now, will you not so much honour me, and so help me as to read it for me? Alas, I know not the shorthand. By this time my little joke was over, and I was almost ashamed, so I shook. I took the typewritten copy from my word basket and handed it to him. Forgive me, I said. I could not help it, but I had been thinking that it was of dear Lucy that you wished to ask, so that you might not have the time to wait. Not on my account, but because I know your time must be precious. I've written it out on the typewriter for you. He took it, and his eyes glistened. You are so good, he said. May I read it now? I may want to ask you some things when I have read. By all means, I said. Read it over while I order lunch, and then you can ask me questions while we eat. He bowed, and settled himself in a chair with his back to the light, and became so absorbed in the papers while I went to see after lunch chiefly, in order that he might not be disturbed. When I came back, I found him walking hurriedly up and down the room, his face all ablaze with excitement. He rushed up to me and took me by both hands. Oh, Madam Mina, he said, how can I say what I owe to you? This paper is as sunshine. It opens the gate to me. I am dazed. I am dazzled. There's so much light, and yet clouds roll in behind the light every time, but that you cannot comprehend. Oh, I am grateful to you. You are so clever, woman. Madame, he said very solemnly, if ever the Abraham Van Helsing can do anything for you or yours, I trust you will let me know. It will be pleasure and delight if I may serve you as a friend, but all I have ever learned, all I can ever do, shall be for you and those you love. There are darkness in life, there are lights. You are one of the lights. You will have a happy life and a good life. Your husband will be blessed in you. But doctor, you praise me too much. You do not know me. Not know you, who am I old, and who have studied all my life men and women, I who have made my specialty the brain, and all that belongs to him, and all that follows from him. And I have read your diary that you have so goodly written for me, which breathes out truth in every line. I, who have read your so sweet letter to poor Lucy of your marriage, your trust, not know you. Oh, Madam Mina, good women tell all their lives, and by day, by hour, by minute, such things that angels can read, and we men who wish to know have in us something of angels' eyes. Your husband is noble in nature. You are noble too. But you trust, and trust cannot be where there is mean nature. And your husband, tell me of him. Is he quite well? Is all that fever gone, and he is strong and hearty? I saw here an opening to ask him about Jonathan, so I said, he was almost recovered, but he has been greatly upset by Mr. Hawkins's death. He interrupted, "Oh yes, I know. I've read your last 2 letters. I went on, I suppose this upset him, for when we were in town last Thursday, he had a sort of shock. A shock. And after brain fever so soon. That is not good. What kind of shock was it? He thought he saw one who he recalled something terrible, something which led to his brain fever. And here the whole thing seemed to overwhelm me in a rush. The pity for Jonathan, the horror which he experienced, the whole fearful mystery of his diary, the fear that has been brooding over me ever since all came. I suppose I was hysterical, for I threw myself on my knees and held up my hands to him, and implored him to make my husband well again. He took my hands, raised me up, made me sit on the sofa, and sat by me. He held my hands in his and said to me with oh such infinite sweetness, "My life is barren and lonely, and so full of work that I have not had much time for friendships. But since I have been summoned here by my friend John Seward, I've known so many good people, and seen such nobility that I feel more than ever, and it has grown with my advancing years, the loneliness of my life. I believe me, then I come here full of respect for you. You have given me hope. Hope, not in what I am seeking of, but that there are good women who still make life happy. Good women, whose lives and whose truths make good lesson for the children that are to be. I'm glad that I may be here of some use to you, or if your husband suffer, he suffer with the range of my study and experience. I promise you, I will gladly do all for him that I can, all to make his life strong and manly, and your life a happy one. Now you must eat. You are overwrought, and perhaps over-anxious. Husband Jonathan would not like to see you so pale, and what he like not where he love is not to his good. Therefore, for his sake you must eat and smile. You have told me about Lucy, so now we shall not speak about it, lest it distress. I shall stay in Exeter tonight, for I want to think much over what you have told me, and when I have thought I will ask you questions if I may. And then too you will tell me of husband Jonathan's trouble, so far as you can, but not yet. You must eat now, afterwards you shall tell me all. After lunch, we went back to the drawing room and he said to me, "Now tell me all about him." When it came to speaking to his great learned man, I began to fear that he would think of me a great fool, and Jonathan a madman, that this journal is too strange. I hesitated to go on, but he was so sweet and kind. He had promised to help, and I trusted him. So I said, "Dr. Van Helsing, what I have to tell you is so queer that you must not laugh at me or my husband. I've been since yesterday in a sort of fever of doubt. You must be kind to me, not think me foolish, that I have even believed very strange half of these strange things." He reassured me by his manner as well as his words when he said, "Oh, my dear, if you only know how strange is the matter regarding I am here, it is you who would laugh. I have learned not to think of little of anyone's belief, no matter how strange it might be. I have tried to keep an open mind, and it is not the ordinary things of life that could close it, but the strange things, the extraordinary things, the things that make one doubt if they be mad or sane. Thank you 1,000 times. You have taken a weight off my mind. Now, if you will let me, I shall give you a paper to read. It is long, but I have typewritten it out. It will tell you my trouble and Jonathan's. It is the copy of his journal when abroad, and all that happened. I dare not say anything of it. You will read it for yourself and judge. And then, when I see you, perhaps, you will be very kind and tell me what you think. I promise, he said, as I gave him the papers. I shall in the morning, as soon as I come, see you and your husband if I may. Jonathan will be here at 11:30, and you must come to lunch with us and see him then. You could catch the quick 3:34 train, which will leave you at Paddington before 8. He was surprised at my knowledge of the trains offhand, but he does not know that I've made up all the trains to and from Exeter, so that I may help Jonathan in case he's in a hurry. So, he took the papers with him and went away, and I sat here thinking, I don't know what. Letter by hand, Van Helsing to Mrs. Harker, 25th of September, 6 o'clock. Dear Madam Mina, I have read your husband's so wonderful diary. You may sleep without doubt. Strange and terrible as it is true. I will pledge my life on it. It may be worse for others, but for him there is no dread. He's a noble fellow, and let me tell you from experience of men, that one who would do as he did in going down that wall and to that room, going a second time, is not one to be injured in permanence by shock. His brain and his heart all right, this I swear. I've even seen him, so be at rest. I shall have much to ask of him of other things. I am blessed that today I came to see you, for I have learned all at once, so much that I again am dazzled more than ever, and I must think. Yours the most faithful, Abraham Van Helsing. Letter to Mrs. Harker to Van Helsing, 25th of September, 6:30 p.m. My dear Van Helsing, 1,000 thanks for your kind letter, which has taken a great weight off my mind, and yet if it be true, what terrible things there are in the world, and what an awful thing if that man, that monster, be really in London, I fear to think. I have this moment, while writing, had a wire from Jonathan saying that he leaves by 6:25 tonight from Launceston, and will be here at 10:18, so that I shall have no fear tonight. Will you, therefore, instead of lunching with us, please come to breakfast at 8 o'clock, if this not be too early for you? You can get away if you are in a hurry by the 10:30 train, which will bring you to Paddington by 2:35. Do not answer this, as I shall take it at that. If I do not hear, you will come to breakfast. Believe me, yours, faithful and grateful friend, Mina Harker. Jonathan Harker's Journal, 26th of September. I thought I'd never to write in this diary again, but the time has come. When I got home last night, Mina had supper ready, and when we supped, she told me of Van Helsing's visit, and her having given him 2 diaries copied out, of how anxious she had been about me. She showed me in the doctor's letters that I wrote down was all true. It seemed to have made a new man out of me. It was the doubt as to the reality of the whole thing that knocked me over. I felt impotent, and in the dark, and distrustful. But now I know I am not afraid, even of the Count. He has succeeded after all, then, in his design in getting to London, and it was he I saw. He has got younger. And how? Van Helsing is the man to unask him and hunt him out, if he is anything like Mina says. We sat late and talked it over. Mina is dressing, and I shall call at the hotel in a few minutes and bring him over. He was, I think, surprised to see me. When I came into the room where he was and introduced myself, he took me by the shoulder and turned my face round to the light and said, after a sharp scrutiny, "But Madame Amina told me you were ill and that you had a shock." It was so funny to hear my wife call Madame Mina by this kindly, strong-faced old man. I smiled and said, "I was ill. I've had a shock. But you've cured me already." "And how?" "By your letter to Mina last night. I was in doubt, and then everything took a hue of unreality, and now I did not know what to trust, even the evidence of my own senses. Not knowing what to trust, I did not know what to do, and so had only to keep on working in what had been the groove of my life. The groove ceased to avail me, and I mistrusted myself. Doctor, you don't know what it is to doubt everything, even yourself. No, you don't. You couldn't with an eyebrow like yours." He seemed pleased and laughed as he said, "So, you're a physiognomist. I learn more here with each hour. I am with so much pleasure coming to you for breakfast, and oh, sir, you will pardon praise from an old man, but you are blessed in your wife." I would listen to him go on praising Mina for the day, so I simply nodded and stood silent. She is one of God's women, fashioned by his own hand, to show us men and other women that there is a heaven where we can enter, and that its light can be here on earth. So true and so sweet, so noble, so little an egoist, and that, let me tell you, is much in this age. So skeptical and selfish. And you, sir, I have read all the letters to poor Miss Lucy, and some of them speak of you. So, I know you since some days from the knowing of others, but I have not seen your true self since last night. You'll give me your hand, will you not? And let us be friends for all of our lives." We shook hands, and he was so earnest and so kind that it made me choky. "And now," he said, "may I ask you for some help? I have a great task to do, and at the beginning it is to know. You can help me here. Can you tell me what went before you going to Transylvania? Later I may ask more help, and of a different kind. But at first this will do." "Look here, sir," I said. "Does what you have to do concern the Count?" "It does," he said solemnly. Then I said, "I am with your heart and soul, as you go by the 10:30 train. You will not have time to read them, but I shall get the bundle of papers. You can take them with you and read them in the train." After breakfast, I saw him to the station. When we were parting, he said, "Perhaps you will come to town if I send for you, and take Madame Mina too." "We shall both come when you will," I said. I had got him in the morning papers and the London papers of the previous night, and while we were talking at the carriage window, waiting for the train to start, he was turning them over. His eyes suddenly seemed to catch something in one of them. The Westminster Gazette. I knew it by the colour, and he grew quite white. He read something intently, groaning to himself, Mein Gott, so soon, so soon." I do not think he remembered me at that moment. Just then the whistle blew, and the train moved off. This recalled him to himself that he leaned out the window and waved his hand, calling out, "Loved Madame Mina, I shall write so soon as ever I can." Dr. Seward's Diary, 26th of September. Truly there is no such thing as finality. Not a week since I said finish, and yet here I am starting fresh again, or rather going on with the record. Until this afternoon, I had no cause to think of what is done. Renfield had become to all intents as sane as he ever was. He was already well ahead with his fly business, and he had just started with the spider line also, so he had not been any trouble to me. I had a letter from Arthur, written on Sunday, and from it I gathered that he is bearing up wonderfully. Quincy Morris is with him, and that is much of help, for him himself is a bubbling well of good spirits. Quincy wrote to me a line too, and from him I hear that Arthur is beginning to recover something of his old buoyancy. So as to them, all my mind is at rest. As for myself, I was settling down to my work with the enthusiasm which I used to have for it, so that I might fairly have said that the wound which poor Lucy left on me has become cicatrized. Everything is, however, now reopened, and what is to be the end, God only knows. I have an idea what Van Helsing thinks he knows too, but he will only let out enough at a time to whet curiosity. He went to Exeter yesterday and stayed there all night. Today he came back and almost bounded into the room at about 5:30 and thrust last night's Westminster Gazette into my hand. "What do you think of that?" he asked as he stood back and folded his arms. He looked over the paper. I really did not know what he meant, but he took it from me and pointed out the paragraph about children being decoyed away at Hampstead. It did not convey much to me until I reached a passage where it described small puncture wounds on their throats. An idea struck me, and I looked up. "Well," he said, "it is like poor Lucy's. And what do you make of it?" "Simply that there is some cause in common, whether it be injured her or has injured them." I did not quite understand his answer. "That is true indirectly, but non-directly." "How do you mean, Professor?" I asked. I was a little inclined to take his seriousness lightly, for after all, 4 days of rest and freedom from burning, harrowing anxiety does help to restore one's spirit. But when I saw his face, it sobered me. Never, even in the midst of our despair about poor Lucy, had he looked more stern. "Tell me," I said. "I can hazard no opinion. I do not know what to think, and I have no data on which to found a conjecture." "Do you mean to tell me, friend John, that you have no suspicion as to what poor Lucy died of? Not after all the hints given, not only by events, but by me?" "Of nervous prostration followed a great loss of blood." "And how was the blood lost or wasted?" I shook my head. He stepped over and sat down beside me and went on. "You are a clever man, friend John. You reason well, and your wit is bold, but you are too prejudiced. You do not let your eyes see, nor your ears hear, and that is which outside your daily life is no account to you. Do you not think that there are things which you cannot understand, and yet which are, that some people see things that others cannot? But there are things old and new which must not be contemplated by men's eyes, because they know or think they know. Some things which other men have been told. It is the fault of our science that it wants to be explained all, and if it explain not, then it says there is nothing to explain. And yet we see around us every day the growth of our new beliefs, which think themselves new, which are yet but the old, which pretend to be young, like fine ladies at the opera. I suppose now you do not believe in the corporal transference? No, nor in materialization, no in astral bodies, no, nor in the reading of thought, no, nor in hypnotism? Yes, I said. Sherlock has proved that pretty well. He smiled as he went on. Then you are satisfied as to it, yes? And then of course you understand how it acts and can follow the mind of a great Sherlock, alas he is no more, into the very soul of the patient that he influenced. No? Then, friend John, am I to take it that you simply accept the fact, and are satisfied to let from premise to conclusion be a blank? No. Then tell me, for I am a student of the brain, how you accept hypnotism and reject thought reading. Let me tell you, friend, there are things done today in electrical science which would have deemed unholy by the very men who discovered electricity, who would themselves not long so before have been burned as wizards. There are always mysteries in life. Why is it that Methuselah lived 900 years and old Pa 169? And yet that poor Lucy with 4 men's blood in her poor veins could not live even one day? For had she lived one more day, we could save her. Do you know all the mystery of life and death? Do you know the altogether of comparative anatomy, and can say wherefore the qualities of brutes are in some men, and not in others? Can you tell me why, when other spiders die small and soon, that one great spider lived in the centuries in the tower of the old Spanish church, and grew, till on descending he could drink the oil of the church lamps? Can you tell me why in Pampas, elsewhere, there are bats that come out at night and open the veins of cattle and horses and suck dry their veins? Yet in some islands of the western seas, there are bats which hold on to trees all day, and those who are seen to describe as giant nuts or pods, and that when the sailors sleep on the deck, because that is hot, flit down on them, and then in the morning are found dead men, white, as even Miss Lucy was? Good God, Professor, I said, starting up. You mean to tell me that Lucy was bitten by such a bat, and that such a thing is here in London, in the 19th century? He waved his hand for silence and went on. Can you tell me why the tortoise lives more long than generations of men, when the elephant goes on till he sees dynasties? Why the parrot never die only of a bite of a cat or dog or other complaint? Can you tell me why men believe in all ages and places that there are men and women cannot die? We all know, because science has vouched for the fact that there have been toads shut up in rocks for thousands of years, shut in one small hole that only hold him since the youth of the world. Can you tell me how the Indian fakir can make himself to die and have been buried, and his grave sealed and corn sowed to it, the corn reaped and cut and sown, reaped and cut again, and then men take away the unbroken seal, and there lie the Indian fakir, not dead, but they rise up and walk amongst them as before. Here I interrupted him. I was getting bewildered. He was so crowded in his mind, his list of nature's eccentricities and possible impossibilities, that my imagination was getting fired. I had a dim idea that he was teaching me some lesson, as long ago he used to do in his study in Amsterdam. But he used them to tell me the thing, so that I could have the object of thought in mind, and all time. But now I was without his help, yet I wanted to follow him, so I said, Professor, let me be your pet student again. Tell me the thesis, so that I may apply your knowledge as you go on. At present, I am going in my mind from point to point as a madman, and not as a sane one. Follows an idea. I feel like a novice numbering through a bog in a mist, jumping from one tussock to another in the mere blind effort to move on without knowing where I am going. And that is a good image, he said. Well, I shall tell you. My thesis is this, and I want you to believe. To believe what? To believe in the things that you cannot. Let me illustrate. I heard once of an American who so defined faith, that faculty which enabled us to believe things which we know to be untrue. For one, I follow that man. He meant that we shall have an open mind, and not let a little bit of truth check the rush of being the truth, like a small rock does in a rail truck. We get the small truth first, good. We keep him, we value him, but all the same we must not let him think himself all the truth in the universe. Then you want me not to let some previous conviction injure the receptivity of my mind with regard to some strange matter. Do I read your lesson right? You are my favorite pupil still. It is worth to teach you. Now, you are willing to understand. You have taken the first step to understand. You think that those little small holes in the children's throats were made by the same that made the holes in Miss Lucy? I suppose so. He stood up and said solemnly, Then you are wrong. Oh, would it were so, but alas, it is worse, far, far worse. In God's name, Professor Van Helsing, what do you mean? I cried. He threw himself with a despairing gesture into a chair and placed his elbows on the table, covering his face with his hands as he spoke. They were made by Miss Lucy. Da-da-da. That was chapter 14. Uh-oh. Has Miss Lucy risen from the dead and now she's biting children? Da-da-da. Also, thank you. Miss Lucy ate the children. Thank you, Majin, for the gifted membership as well. And welcome, Dawn Hammer. Thank you very much. Yeah. Uh-oh. So... yeah, Jonathan is the husband of Mina. And Jonathan's been seeing Dracula around... was it London? And he's kind of freaked out. And he thinks that he's going crazy. And Mr. Van Helsing is absolutely gassing up his wife. Absolutely glazing his wife, Mina. He's literally like, oh, I know you. I read your letters. I'm like your bestie. I know everything about you. We're best friends now. Which is kind of funny. And he's like, wow, you have a really amazing wife. And talks about his wife for an hour. Pretty cool. I think Jonathan is kind of relieved that he's not going crazy and that something is happening. Someone is in London. The Rizzula. I think while I was reading, I could read from the corner of my eyes. You guys' comments. Classic Jonathan. Yeah. And now, Mr. Van Helsing is telling his friend, student, that he believes the children that are being bitten in town are being bitten by Lucy, a character that died in the previous reading, because she was also bitten, and she was supposed to be buried and beheaded, but they decided not to do that. But now, I think she has risen from the dead. Do you think the main character is Crane certified? Good question. Really brings it into perspective, doesn't it? When was the crane invented? My favorite part was when Dr. Van Helsing said, Mein Gott. Mein Gott. She has risen. 85 years of Riz. Yep, pretty much. That was chapter 14. He's German. I actually can't remember where he was from. Was he German? I like the part where they described how nice the guy's head was. Yeah, he really went into it. I saw from the corner of my eyes someone talking about my forehead. You better watch yourself. What do I have to do with any of this? Leave me out of this story. Stop trying to insert your OCs into Dracula, okay? That was me. That did happen. And you all just sat there and let it happen. Shaking my head. It is a quality forehead. Thanks, guys. Well, are we ready for chapter 15? Goodness, it took me 52 minutes to get through one chapter. Right. So probably take around that again. Rub my forehead for good luck. Chapter 15, Dr. Seward's Diary, continued. For a while, sheer anger mastered me. It was as if he had during her life struck Lucy in the face. I smote the table as hard and rose up, and I said to him, "Dr. Van Helsing, are you mad?" He raised his head and looked at me, and somehow the tenderness of his face calmed me at once. "Would I were," he said. "Madness were easy to bear compared with a truth like this. Oh, my friend, why, think you, did I go so far round? Why take so long to tell so simple a thing? Was it because I hate you, and I've hated you all my life? Was it because I wished to give you pain? Was it that I wanted now so late revenge for the time when you saved my life from a fearful death? Ah, no." "Forgive me," said I. He went on, "My friend, it was because I wished to be gentle in the breaking to you, for I know you have loved that sweet lady. But even yet I did not expect you to believe. It is so hard to accept at once any abstract truth, that we may doubt such to the possible, when we have always believed the know of it. It is more hard still to accept so sad a concrete truth, and such as one of Miss Lucy. Tonight I go to prove it. Dare you come with me?" This staggered me. A man does not like to prove such a truth. Byron, excepted from the category jealousy. And to prove every truth he almost abbed. He saw my hesitation and spoke. "The logic is simple. No madman's logic this time, jumping from tussock to tussock in a misty bog. And if it not true, then the proof will be relief. At worst, it will not harm, and if it be true, there is a dread. Yet every dread should help my cause, for in it some need of belief. Come, I tell you what I propose. First, that we go off now and see the child in the hospital, Dr. Vincent of the North Hospital, where the papers say the child here is a friend of mine. I think of yours since you were in class in Amsterdam. He will not let scientists see his case, and if he will not let two friends, we shall tell him nothing, but only that we wish to learn. And then, he took a key from his pocket and held it up, and then we spent the night. You and I in the churchyard where Lucy lies. This is the key that unlocked the tomb. I had it from the coffin man to give to Arthur. My heart sank within me, for I felt there was some fearful ordeal before us, and I couldn't do nothing. However, I plucked up the heart that I could and said that we'd better hasten, as afternoon was passing. I found the child awake. It had asleep and taken some food and was altogether going on well. Dr. Van Helsing took the bandage from its throat and showed us the punctures. There was no mistake in the similarity to those that had been on Lucy's throat. They were smaller and the edges looked fresher. That was all. We asked Vincent to what he attributed them. He believed that it must have been the bite of an animal, perhaps a rat. But for his own part, he was inclined to think it was one of the bats which are so numerous in the northern heights of London. Out so many harmless ones, he said. There must have been some wild specimen from the south, or a more malignant species. Some sailor must have brought them home. And it manages to escape, or even from the zoological gardens. A young one may have gotten loose, or one bred there from a vampire. These things do occur, you know. Only 10 days ago, a wolf got out, and I believe traced up in this direction. For a week after, the children were playing nothing but Red Riding Hood on the heath, and in every alley in the place until this bloofer lady scare came along. Since then, it has been quite a gala time with them. Even then this small poor little mite, he woke up today and asked the nurse if he might go away. When she asked him why he wanted to go, he said he wanted to play with the bloofer lady. I hope, said Van Helsing, that when you are sending the child home you will caution its parents to keep strict watch over it. These fancies, these strays, are most dangerous, and if the children were to remain out another night, it would probably be fatal. But in any case, I suppose you will not let it away for some days? Certainly not. Not for a week, at least longer if the wound is not healed. Our visit to the hospital took more time than we had reckoned on, and the sun had dipped before we came out. When Van Helsing saw how dark it was, he said, "There is no hurry. It is more late than I thought. Come, let us seek somewhere where we may eat, and then we shall go away." We dined at Jack Straw's castle, along with a little crowd of bicyclists and others who were genuinely noisy. About 10 o'clock we started from the inn. It was then very dark, and the scattered lamps made the darkness greater when we were outside of the individual radius. The professor had evidently noted the roads we were to go, for he went on. But as for me, I was in quite a mix-up as to locality. As we went further, we met fewer and fewer people, till at last we were somewhat surprised when we met even the patrol of the horse police going on the usual suburban round. At last we reached the wall of the churchyard, where we climbed over. With some little difficulty, for it was very dark and the whole place seemed so strange to us, we found the western tomb. The professor took the key, opened the creaky door, and standing back politely, but quite unconsciously, motioned me to precede him. There was a delicious irony in the offer, in the courtliness of giving preference on such a ghastly occasion. My companion followed me quickly, continuously drew the door to, and after ascertaining the lock was a falling and not a spring in one. In the latter case, we should have been in bad plight. Then he fumbled in his bag and took out a matchbox and a piece of candle, and proceeded to make a light. The tomb in the daytime, and when wreathed with fresh flowers, had looked grim and gruesome enough, but now some days afterwards, when the flowers hung, lank and dead, their whites turned to rust, their greens to browns, the spider and the beetle had consumed their accustomed dominance, when the time-discoloured stone and the dust-encrusted mortar, and rusty dank iron, and tarnished brass, and clouded silver plating gave back the feeble glimmer of a candle, the effect was more miserable and sordid than could have been imagined. It conveyed irresistibly the idea that life, animal life, was not the only thing which could pass away. Van Helsing went about his work systematically, holding out his candle so that he could read the coffin plates, and so holding it in that the sperm dropped the white patches which concealed as they touched the metal, he made assurance of Lucy's coffin. Another search in his bag, and he took out the turn screw. "What are you going to do?" I asked. "To open the coffin. You shall yet be convinced." Straightway he began taking out the screws, and finally lifted off the lid, showing the casing of lead beneath. The sight was almost too much for me. It seemed to be as much of an affront to the dead as it would have been to have stripped off her clothing and asleep while living. I actually took hold of his hand to stop him. He only said, "You shall see," and again fumbling in his bag took out a tiny fret saw. striking the turn screw through the lead with a swift downward stab which made me wince. He made a small hole, which was however big enough to admit the point of the saw. I'd expected a rush of gas from the weak old corpse. We doctors, who have had to study our dangers, have become accustomed to such things, and I drew back towards the door, but the professor never stopped for a moment. He sawed down a couple of feet, along one side of the lead coffin, and then across and down the other side. Taking the edge of the loose flange, he went back towards the foot of the coffin, holding up the candle in the aperture, motioned to me to look. I drew near and looked. The coffin was empty. It was certainly a surprise to me, and it gave me considerable shock, but Van Helsing was unmoved. He was now more sure than ever of his ground, and so emboldened to proceed in his task. "Are you satisfied now, friend John?" he asked. I felt all the dogged argumentativeness of my nature waken within me as I answered him. "I am satisfied that Lucy's body is not in that coffin, and that only proves one thing." "And what is that, friend John?" "That it is not there." "That is good logic," he said, "so far as it goes. But how do you know? How can you account for it not being there?" "Perhaps a body snatcher," I suggested. "Some of the undertaker's people may have stolen it." I felt that I was speaking fully, and yet it was the only real course which I could suggest. The professor sighed. "Ah well," he said, "we must have more proof. Come with me." He put the lid on the coffin again and gathered all his things, and we placed them in the bag, blew out the light, and placed the candle also in the bag. We opened the door and went out. Behind us, he closed the door and locked it. He handed me the key, saying, "Will you keep it? You had better be assured." I laughed, and it was not a very cheerful laugh, I am bound to say, as I motioned him to keep it. "A key is nothing," I said. "There are many duplicates, and anyhow it is not difficult to pick up a lock of this kind." He said nothing, but the key in his pocket. Then he told us to watch one side of the churchyard while he would watch another. I took up my place behind a yew tree, and I saw his dark figure move until the intervening headstones and trees hid it from my sight. It was a lonely vigil. Just after I'd taken my place, I heard a distant clock strike 12, and in time came 1, 2. I was chilled and unnerved, and angry with the professor for taking me on such an errand, and with myself for coming. I was too cold and sleepy to be keenly observant, and not sleepy enough to betray my trust, so altogether I had a dreary, miserable time. Suddenly, as I turned round, I thought I saw something like a white streak moving between two dark yew trees at the side of the churchyard farthest from the tomb. At the same time, a dark mass moved from the professor's side of the ground and hurriedly went towards it. Then I too moved, but I had to go around the headstones and railed-off tombs, and I stumbled over graves. The sky was overcast, somewhere far off in the early cock crew, a little ways off beyond the lines of scattered juniper trees, which marked the pathways to the church. A white dim figure flitted in the direction of the tomb. The tomb itself was hidden by the trees, and I could not see where the figures had disappeared. I heard the rustle of actual movement where I had first seen the white figure, and coming over, found the professor holding his arms a tiny child. When he saw me, he held it out to me and said, "Are you satisfied now?" "No," I said in a way that I felt was aggressive. "Do you not see the child?" "Yes, it is a child, but who brought it here? And is it wounded?" "We shall see," said the professor, and with one impulse we took our way out of the churchyard, him carrying the sleeping child. When we had gotten some little distance away, we went into the clump of trees and struck a match, and looked at the child's throat. It was without a scratch or a scar of any kind. Was I right? We were just in time, said the professor, thankfully. We had now to decide what we were to do with the child, and so consulted about it. If we were to take it to a police station, we should have to give it some account of our movements during the night. At least, we should have had to make a statement as to how we came to find the child. So finally we decided that we would take it to the heath, and when we heard a policeman coming, would leave it where he could not fail to find it. We would then seek our way home as quickly as we could. All fell out well. At the edge of Hampstead Heath, we heard a policeman's heavy tramp, and laying the child on the pathway, we waited and waited until he saw it and flashed his lantern to and fro. We heard his exclamation of astonishment, and then we went away silently. By good chance, we got a cab near the Spaniards and drove to town. I cannot sleep, so I make this entry. But I must try to get a few hours' sleep, as Van Helsing is to call at me for noon. He insists that I go with him on another expedition. 27th of September. It was 2 o'clock before we found a suitable opportunity for our attempt. The funeral held at noon was all completed, and the last stragglers of the mourners had taken themselves away. Looking carefully from behind a clump of alder trees, we saw the sexton lock the gate after him. We knew that we were safe till morning, did we desire it. The professor told me that we should not want more than the hour at most. Again, I felt the horrid sense of reality of things, in which any effort or imagination seemed out of place. I realized distinctly the perils of the law which we were incurring on our hallowed work. Besides, I felt it was all so useless. Outrageous as it was to open a leaden coffin, to see if a woman dead nearly a week was really dead, it now seemed the height of folly to open the tomb again, when we knew from the evidence of our own sight that the coffin was empty. I shrugged my shoulders, however, and rested silent, for Van Helsing had a way of going on his own road. No matter who remonstrated, he took the key, opened the vault, and again courteously motioned me to proceed. The place was not so gruesome as night, but oh, how unutterly mean looking when the sunshine streamed in. Van Helsing walked over to Lucy's coffin, and I followed. He bent over and again forced back the leaden flange, and a shock of surprise and dismay shot through me. There lay Lucy, seemingly just as we had seen her the night before her funeral. She was, if possibly, more radiantly beautiful than ever, and I could not believe that she was dead. The lips were red, nay, redder than before, and on the cheeks was a delicate bloom. "Is this a juggle?" I said to him. "Are you convinced now?" said the professor in response, and as he spoke he put his hand over in a way that made me shudder, pulled back the dead lips, and showed the white teeth. "See," he went on, "they are even sharper than before, and with this and this," he touched one of the canine teeth, and that below it, "the little children can be bitten. Are you of belief now, John?" Once more argumentative hostility woke within me. I could not accept such an overwhelming idea as he suggested, so, with an attempt to argue, of which I was even at the moment ashamed, I said, "She may have been placed here since last night." "Indeed, that is so. And by whom? I do not know. Someone has done it. And yet she has been dead a week. Most people in that time would not look so." I had no answer for this, so it was silent. Van Helsing did not seem to notice my silence. At any rate, he showed neither chagrin nor triumph. He was looking intently at the face of a dead woman, raising the eyelids, looking at the eyes, once more opening the lips and examining the teeth. Then he turned to me and said, "Here there is one thing which is different from all recorded. Here is some dual life that is not as common. She was bitten by the vampire when she was in a trance, sleepwalking. Oh, you start. You do not know that, friend John, but you shall know it later. And in trance could he best come to take more blood? In trance she dies, and in trance she is undead. So it is that she suffer. She differ from all other. Usually when the undead sleep at home." As he spoke, he made a comprehensive sweep of his arm to designate what to a vampire was home. Their face show what they are, but this so sweet, that was when she not undead she go back to the nothings of the common dead. There is no malign here to see, so make hard that I must kill her in her sleep." This turned my blood cold, and it began to dawn on me that I was accepting Van Helsing's theories. But if she was really dead, what was there of the terror in the idea of killing her? He looked at me and evidently saw the change in my face, where he said almost joyously, "Ah, you believe me now?" I answered, "Do not press me too hard all at once. I am not willing to upset. I am willing to accept. How will you do this bloody work?" "I shall cut off her head and fill her mouth with garlic, and I shall drive a stake through her body." It made me shudder to think of so mutilating the body of the woman whom so I had loved, and yet the feeling was not so strong as I expected. I was in fact beginning to shudder at the presence of this being, this undead, as Van Helsing called it, and to loathe it. Is it possible that love is all subjective, or all objective? I waited a considerable time for Van Helsing to begin, then he stood up, as if wrapped in thought. Presently, he closed the catch of his bag with a snap and said, "I have been thinking, and have made up my mind as to what is best, but if I did simply follow my inclining, I would know that at this moment what is to be done, but there are other things to follow, and the things that are 1,000 times more difficult in that we do not know. This is simple. She hath yet no life taken, though that is of time, and to act now would take danger from her forever. But then we may have want Arthur, and we shall tell him of this. If you saw the wounds on Lucy's throat, and saw the wounds on the child's at the hospital, if you who saw the coffin empty last night, and full today with a woman who have not changed only to be more rose and more beautiful in the whole week after she died, if you know of this, and know of the white figure last night that brought the child to the churchyard, and yet of your own senses you did not believe, then how then can I expect Arthur, who know none of those things, to believe? He doubted me when I took him from her kiss when she was dying. I know he has forgiven me, because in some mistaken idea I have done things that prevent him saying bye as he ought. He may think that in some more mistaken idea this woman was buried alive, and that in the most mistake of all we have killed her. He will then argue back, and that is we mistaken ones have killed her by our ideas, and that he will be so much unhappy always, yet he never can be sure, and that is the worst of all. He will sometimes think that he loved was buried alive, and that will paint his dreams with horrors of what she must have suffered, and again he will think that we may be right, and that he is so beloved after all an undead. No, I told him once, and since then I learned much. Now, since I know it all true 100 times more do, I know he must pass through the bitter waters to reach the sweet. He, poor fellow, must have had 1 hour that will make the very face of heaven grow black to him. then we can act for good and all around and send in peace. My mind is made up. Let us go. You return home for tonight to your asylum and see that all be well. As for me, I shall spend the night here in this churchyard in my way. Tomorrow night you will come to me in the Berkeley Hotel at the 10 o'clock. I shall send for Arthur to come too, and also that so fine young man of America that gave his blood. Later we shall have work to do. I come with you so far as Piccadilly and there dine, for I must back here before the sunset. So we locked the tomb and came away, and got over the wall of the churchyard, which was not much of a task, and drove back to Piccadilly. Note left by Van Helsing in his portmanteau, Berkeley Hotel, directed to John Seward. 27th of September. Friend John, I write this in case anything should happen. I go alone to watch in the churchyard. It pleases me that the undead Miss Lucy shall not leave tonight, that so on the morrow night she may be more eager. Therefore I shall fix some things she like not, garlic and crucifix, and so seal up the door of the tomb. She is young as undead and will heed. Moreover, they are only to prevent her coming out. They may not prevail her on wanting to get in, and then the undead is desperate and must find the line of least resistance, whatsoever it may be. I shall be at hand all the night, from sunset till after sunrise, and if there may aught to be learned, I shall learn it. For Miss Lucy or from her I shall have no fear, but the other, to whom is there that she is undead, he may not have the power to seek her tomb and find shelter. He is cunning, and I know from Mr. Jonathan and from all the way he may have fooled us when he played with us for Miss Lucy's life, and we lost, and in many ways the undead are strong. He will always have the strength in his hand of 20 men, even we 4 who gave our strength to Miss Lucy. It is also all to him. Besides, he can summon his wolf, and I know what. So, it may be that he came thither on the night he shall find me, but none other shall until it be too late. But it may be that he will not attempt the place. There is no reason why he should. His hunting ground is more full of the game than the churchyard, where the undead woman sleeps, and the one old man watch. Therefore I write this case. Take the papers that are with this, the diaries of Harker and the rest, and read them, and find this great undead, and cut off his head, and burn his heart, drive a stake through it, so that the world may rest from him, and if be it, so farewell. Van Helsing. Dr. Seward's Diary, 28th of September. It is wonderful what a good night's sleep will do for me. Yesterday I was almost willing to accept Van Helsing's monstrous ideas, but now they seem to start out lurid before me as outrages on common sense. I have no doubt he believes it all. I wonder if his mind can have become in any way unhinged. Surely there must be some rational explanation for all these mysterious things. Is it possible that Professor can have done it himself? He is so abnormally clever that if he went off his head, he would carry out his intent with regard to some fixed idea in a wonderful way. I am loath to think it, and indeed it would be almost as great as marvel as the other to find that Van Helsing was mad. But anyway, I shall watch him carefully. I may get some light on the mystery. 29th of September. Last night, at a little before 10 o'clock, Arthur Quincy came into Van Helsing's room. He told us all that he wanted us to do, but especially addressing himself to Arthur, as if all our wills were centered to his. He began by saying that he hoped we would all come with him too, for he said that there is a grave duty to be done here. You were doubtless surprised at my letter. This query was directly addressed to Lord Godalming. I was. It rather upset me for a bit. There has been so much trouble around my house of late that I could do without any more. I've been curious too as to what you mean. Quincy and I talked it over, but the more we talked, the more puzzled we got. Till now I can say for myself that I'm about up as a tree as to any meaning about anything. Me too, said Quincy Morris. Oh, said the professor. Then you are nearing the beginning, both of you, than friend John here, who has go a long way back before he can even get so far as to begin. It was evident that he recognized my return to my old doubting frame of mind without me saying a word. Then, turning to the other two, he said with intense gravity, I want your permission to do what I think good this night. It is, I know, much to ask, and when you know what it is I propose to do, you will know, and only then how much. Therefore may I ask that you promise me in the dark that afterwards, though you may be angry with me for a time, I must not disguise myself from the possibility that such may be. You shall not blame yourselves for anything. That's frank anyhow, broke in Quincy. I'll answer for the professor. I don't see his drift, but I swear he's honest, and that's good enough for me. I thank you, sir, said Van Helsing proudly. I've done myself an honor of counting you one trusting friend, and such endorsement is dear to me. He held out his hand, which Quincy took. Then Arthur spoke out. Dr. Van Helsing, I don't quite like to buy a pig in a poke, as you say in Scotland, but if it is anything in which my honour as a gentleman, or my faith as a Christian is concerned, I cannot make such a promise. If you can assure me that what you intend does not violate either of these two, then I give my consent at once. Though for the life of me I cannot understand what you are driving at. I accept your limitation, said Van Helsing, and all I ask of you is that, if you feel it necessary to condemn any act of mine, you will first consider it well and be satisfied that it does not violate your reservations. Agreed, said Arthur. That is only fair. And now that the papales are over, may I ask you what it is we are to do? I want you to come with me, and to come in secret, to the churchyard at Kingstead. Arthur's face fell as he said in an amazed sort of way, Where is poor Lucy buried? The professor bowed. Arthur went on, and when there, to enter the tomb. Arthur stood up. Professor, are you in earnest, or is it some monstrous joke? Pardon me, I see that you are in earnest. He sat down again, but I could see that he sat firmly and proudly, as one who is on his dignity. There was silence until he asked again, And when in the tomb? To open the coffin. This is too much, he said, angrily rising again. I am willing to be patient in all things that are reasonable, but in this, the desecration of the grave of one who... He fairly choked with indignation. The professor looked pityingly at him. If I could spare you one pang, my friend, he said, God knows I would, but this night our feet must tread in the thorny paths, or later and forever the feet you love must walk in paths of flame. Arthur looked up with his set white face and said, Take care, sir, take care. Would it not be well to hear what I have to say? Said Van Helsing. Then you will at least know the limit of my purpose. Shall I go on? That's fair enough, broke in Morris. After a pause, Van Helsing went on, evidently with effort. Miss Lucy is dead, is it not? Yes. Then there can be no wrong to her. But if she be not dead... Arthur jumped to his feet. Good God, he cried. What do you mean? Has there been any mistake? Has she been buried alive? He groaned in anguish that not even hope could soften. I did not say she was alive, my child. I did not think it. I go no farther than to say she might be undead. Undead? Not alive? What do you mean? Is this all a nightmare? What is it? There are mysteries which men can only guess at, which age by age they may solve only in part. Believe me, we are now on the verge of one. But I have not done. May I cut off the head of Miss Dead Lucy? Heavens and earth, no! Cried Arthur in a storm of passion. Not for the wide world will I consent any mutilation of her dead body. Dr. Van Helsing, you try me too far. What have I done to you that you should torture me so? What did that poor sweet girl do that you would want to cast in such dishonour on her grave? Are you mad that you speak of such things, or mad, I mad to listen to them? Don't dare think of such desecration. I shall not give my consent to anything. I have a duty to do in protecting her grave from outrage, and by God, I shall do it. Van Helsing rose up from where he had been all this time, being seated, and said gravely and sternly, My Lord Godalming, I too have a duty to do, a duty to others, a duty to you, a duty to the dead, and by God I shall do it. All I ask now is that you come with me, that you look and listen, and if when later I make the same request, you do not be more eager for its fulfillment, even than I am, then I shall do my duty wherever it may seem to me, and then to follow your lordship's wishes, I shall hold myself at your disposal to render an account to you, when, where you will. His voice broke a little, and he went on, with a voice full of pity. But I beseech you, do not go forth in anger with me in a long life of acts which have not often not pleasant to do, which sometimes did wring my heart. I have never had so heavy a task as now. Believe me, if the time comes for you to change your mind towards me, one look from you will wipe away this sad hour. For I would do what a man can to save you from sorrow. Just think, for why should I give myself such labour and so much sorrow? I have come here from my own land to do what I can of good, at the first to please my friend John, then to help a sweet young lady, whom too I came to love, and for her I am ashamed to say such, but I say it in kindness. I gave what you gave, the blood of my veins. I gave it. I, who was not like you, her lover, but only her physician and her friend. I gave my nights and days, before death, after death, and if my death can do her any good, when she is the dead undead, she shall have it freely. He said with a very grave sweet pride, and Arthur was much affected by it. He took the old man's hand and said in a broken voice, Oh, it is hard to think of it, and I cannot understand, but at least I shall go with you and wait. Da-da-da. That was chapter 15. Yeah, chapter 15. Oh my goodness. When I was reading, I looked from the corner of my eye. There was one message in chat that nearly made me crack up. You should be ashamed of yourself. Is this a user agreement? God damn it. That nearly made me crack up. Alright. No. Just a friend. No, it's okay. It's okay. I found it funny. It was my eyes. Just the corner of my eyes. My goodness. Yeah, bro is going on and on. But that was chapter 15. So far, what has happened? the bloof lady that has been biting children in town turned out to be Lucy, the girl who died in the previous chapters. And apparently she is still slaying after being dead for a couple of days. She looks even better than when she was alive, so kinda jealous. I liked when Helsing rose up, such a gamer move. Yeah, he really locked in. She was slaying. I can't believe they broke into her tomb and had a look, and she was pretty much gone. And then she tried to eat a child, and then they found her in the morning again. I wonder how she breaks back into her place. I don't know. I can't use my demon magic, no. Has Dracula have anything to do with this? He's scheming something. He has to be. Yeah. We are past chapter 10. Yep. We just finished chapter 15, so next time it'll be chapter 16. But yeah, I guess now they wanna get permission from... Were they married? Literally get permission from the person that she was at least engaged to go into her tomb and cut off her head and drive a stake into her body and feed her some garlic. So yeah, and the guy is obviously like, no, that's not cool. So yeah, I don't know, personally I would be quite excited to see my vampire wife. Yes. Yeah. She doesn't like garlic. Yeah, at least they asked for permission, but he's like terrified. I would be excited, you know? But it's whatever. Anyways, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you could turn your brain off a little bit. You? Or relax or sleep. Thank you. And thank you for your commentary as I'm reading. It is very fun to catch them from the corner of my eyes. So, thank you very much. Keeping me company. I have a whole playlist in my description. So, if you wanna read or listen alongside with me, yeah, it's in the description. That will be like from the beginning of Dracula. Da-da-da. Yep. Are we getting Rem audiobook as much? I wish. Thank you, Volda. Welcome to Pillow Princess. Thank you so much. You have a great voice. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, so if you want something to put on in the background, I've got my reading playlist. I've got my usual ASMR playlist as well. That's got like 100+ videos. So, you're good. Okay, I'll see you guys around. The rest of the week I usually do kind of a variety of things, but tomorrow we're gonna be looking at some proper scran. We're gonna be looking at food. Yeah, gonna be looking at food tomorrow. Atrocious looking food. Okay, see you guys. Bye bye. Thank you so much. Bye.